Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to film a little wrap-up video of 3 books that I've read recently, 2 of which are books on the Women Prize for Fiction long list, and 1 of which is a graphic novel. I need to return a few of these books to the library, so I thought I would take a quick break and just film my thoughts about each of these books. And try to keep it brief so that I can get back to doing what I need to do today and get these books back to the library. So let's just get to it. The first thing I read was this graphic novel called Everything is Teeth by Evie Wyld. This is a graphic memoir about the author who spent some of her summers in Australia, and she was fascinated with sharks. And I've heard a lot about this graphic novel, which is done, as you can see, all in black and white. And has been discussed quite often, not only in, there's a few splashes of color, but it's mostly black and white. I've heard this talked about quite a bit on BookTube, and my daughter is fascinated by sharks, always has watched Shark Week, and whenever we vacation in any areas where you can swim in the ocean, which is not Maine, but anywhere other than here, where it's warm and you can swim in the ocean, she is afraid of sharks. So I thought this would be an interesting graphic novel. Unfortunately, I was kind of disappointed in this. I didn't find, I didn't really like the art style. I didn't think that the story was particularly compelling. I didn't really get a lot of emotion out of this graphic novel. It just was kind of bland and blah to me, so didn't really work for me, but I'm glad that I checked it out and got it through my library rather than purchasing it. The next 2 books that I completed were both on the Women's Prize for Fiction long list, and the first one is a book that I own, and it's Eleanor, Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. I did not really know what to expect when I went into this novel. I really love this cover. I don't know if you can see how those stars are shiny, but it's a really pretty cover, I think. And this book, I think, had been I don't know if it was an Oprah book club pick, but it was a BBC radio book club pick. It won the Costa Prize, I believe. So it had been talked about quite a bit last year. And the book is about our main character, Eleanor Oliphant, who is kind of socially awkward. She's around 30 years old. She works in an office, and she basically goes to work Monday through Friday, business hours, and then drinks 2 bottles of vodka to get herself through the weekend, every weekend. She really doesn't have any hobbies or any friends or any family that we can tell of in the beginning. And as the book starts, you don't really know why she's so isolated, but as the book goes on, you start to learn more and more about her past life. And Eleanor, through some random chance encounters with people in her community, starts to gain a social network, and her bobblings of those social interactions is kind of the heart of this novel. I was completely charmed by this book. This book turned out to be a far more interesting and heartwarming read than I anticipated it would be. It takes kind of a dark turn about 2/3 of the way through that I wasn't expecting, and I thought that brought a little more realism into the book for me, and I found it quite an interesting portrayal of sort of depression and mental health issues and how mental health issues are addressed. I thought it was really interesting. It was nothing that I had ever really seen handled in this way that this book does before. So I think that brought an unexpected depth to the book, which was just a fun read, a good read, but not anything that I was thinking was going to really make an impact on me long term. So that was an awesome surprise, and I just really love this book. As far as it goes on the Women's Prize for Fiction list, I don't know that I think it's, prize worthy. I don't know that it breaks new ground. I don't You know, it's not written in a style that's difficult. It's certainly, I feel it's written more sort of to a general audience, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's certainly not a criticism, but when I think of a prize list, I think of books that are more challenging or that are breaking the mold, doing something different with form or style or content, and I didn't feel that this book necessarily did that. However, that's not to say I wouldn't recommend this book. I think this is a great read. It's a heartwarming read. It's very charming. It's funny in places. It's sad in places. I just loved it, but I don't know that it's a prize-worthy book. So there we are. Great for me. We'll see what happens with the prize list. I would not be sad to see it on the short list, but I think would be surprised to see it on the short list. The second book I read and finished recently that's on the women's prize list was Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward. This book, you know, has been talked about everywhere. It's a National Book Award winner here in the United States. Jesmyn Ward is a highly acclaimed African-American writer in the United States. I think, you know, this book has been talked about so much you probably don't need my synopsis, but anyway, it's written in alternating perspective chapters from Jojo, who is about 12 or 13 years old, and his mom, Leonie. I think her name's Leonie. Let me just check. I'm so bad with names. Yes, Leonie. His mom, Leonie. And we follow their story. We learn about Jojo, who's growing up on a farm. They live with their grandparents because his mom is really not doing a very good job at being a parent. His dad is in prison. His mom is black and his dad is white. His dad's parents don't want anything to do with them because they don't believe in mixed race relationships. The mom, Leonie, has got a drug problem, and so it falls upon the grandparents to sort of raise these kids as best they can. Jojo has a little sister that Kayla, that he basically has been parenting because his mom's absent so much and his grandmother is sick with cancer. All the beginning parts of this book I really loved. I really loved everything from Jojo's perspective. He's such a strong character. Leonie I struggled with a little bit more simply because I have a really hard time with parents who don't parent, who basically abdicate their responsibilities to take care of their children for whatever reason. So I struggled to have empathy with what she was going through, even though she goes through a ton of crap. Her beloved brother is killed when she's a teenager by a white guy who turns out to be related to the guy she later falls in love with and has kids with, Jojo's dad, Michael. So, you know, there's this whole convoluted family structure here and tragic events that interweave throughout the story, which is all great until about halfway, 2/3 through the book, when a lot of basically magical realism elements kind of take over. And as other people have said, I did not find that part of the book to be particularly strong. I didn't really like the magical realism parts. I don't really want to say too much about them because if you haven't read it, I don't want to spoil things for you. But I think as a story of a young person growing up in a fractured family in the South, this is a great novel. I mean, certainly this is an experience that lots and lots and lots of kids are going through in today's world, not just in the South, but everywhere. So, it tells of an experience I think that a lot of people should be aware of. And there's a lot of difficult things to think about here with, how do we support people who are living in poverty, who have drug problems, is the sort of revolving door of prison really working to, help us have healthy, strong communities? I don't think so, and neither does this book. So, all of that sort of thing is interesting. Like I said, the magical realism elements just didn't really work for me. It just didn't, the end of the book just kind of, I don't know, didn't bring it all together for me in a way that I found satisfying. I kind of found that ending to be unsatisfying, so there's that. So as far as like comparing Eleanor Oliphant and this book, I enjoyed Eleanor Oliphant more. I think Sing Unburied Sing is probably a better written book. Jesmyn Ward is a hell of a writer. I certainly will be reading more of her works. I've read her nonfiction and really loved that. It's just that I personally didn't love all the magical realism bits in this. So there we are. There's 2 books down from the Women's Prize list, and I will be continuing on my quest to read more from this list, and will be bringing my thoughts about those to you in future videos. If you've read either Eleanor Oliphant or Sing Unburied Sing, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And until the next video, I will talk to you later.